Living during medieval times meant agriculture was the primary means to support a household, though how could you grow food during the bleak winter months? If food did not last till late winter or early spring, your chances of starvation increased dramatically. So, what did peasant households eat and drink to survive a harsh medieval winter? Peasant foods for a medieval winter. Medieval peasant food would have regional differences depending on where you lived, though the peasant class in general used these choices for their daily winter meals. Proper nourishment meant bread was a staple of their diet. Dough would be made with affordable ingredients like rye, barley, and oats ground into flour. What is interesting to note is that brown bread showed lower status in medieval times, while white bread displayed higher social status. As part of their daily winter nourishment, this dark bread would often be served with hard, aged, salted cheese. One may ask where they found these grains during a brutally cold winter. The answer to that question is that peasants stored their autumn harvest. Grains, cereals, and legumes would be dried and sorted, then stored in clay or ceramic pots. During winter, dried legumes would be soaked in water overnight, then boiled in the morning to soften their texture before consumption. Fruit would be dried or sealed in honey for winter consumption. White meats, the term used for dairy products like milk by medieval peasants, would be provided by chickens, cows, and goats. Protein came from eggs, dairy, and cheese. Interestingly, since eggs were a prized commodity, chickens in medieval times were not slaughtered for their meat unless necessary. To lessen the severity or possibility of illness, hot meals like pottage helped to keep people warm. Pottages were a main staple for the winter diet, which included hearty stews made with boiled grains like barley, oats, rye, and wheat. In addition, porridge, also known as frumenti, was part of a commoner's diet, cooked with the same boiled grains used for pottages. Ingredients like carrots or herbs would be added for flavor in both pottages and porridges if they were available for seasoning. In large simmering pots, often left at a low boil for days, new ingredients could be added to pottages as the existing contents were consumed. Those that were fortunate to have slaughtered meats preserved this nourishment for winter. Meat would be placed in a wet brine, which was a mixture of water boiled in salt and herbs. Then this meat would be put in a new barrel of dry salt for final preservation. When it was needed during the winter season, it would be rinsed and used for cooking. Smoking meat and salting pork would also be common preservation methods for winter consumption. Smoked and dried meats like beef, ham, and bacon could last quite a while over the winter season. Meats as well as vegetables could be used during winter for pies and pastries. Additional sources of protein included fish such as herring and salmon. Fish could be caught freely on rivers or streams during the fall season and could be preserved for winter by salting, pickling, or drying. Root vegetables like leeks, parsnips, and turnips were especially important because of their long shelf life when stored in cool cellars. However, vegetables as well as fruits were not eaten raw. It was thought in those times to eat such foods in their raw state caused illnesses. Therefore, vegetables were used in pottages, and fruits such as apples, pears, and berries were cooked and preserved or used as ingredients for pastries. Onions would be pickled in brine for use during winter. Medicinal herbs were also prepared for the threat of illness during winter. Hyssop, a plant which was harvested in fall for medicinal purposes, was used to treat phlegm, bronchitis, coughing, and similar conditions. Peasant drinks for a medieval winter. Alcoholic beverages were an important part of everyday medieval life. Unlike modern times, drinking alcoholic beverages was a common, widespread activity. In fact, the earliest recorded European temperance society did not appear until 1818 AD in Sweden. So, with alcoholic beverages a critical part of social culture, what were the most popular winter drinks consumed by medieval peasants? Ale was the common person's alcoholic beverage during the winter season and was consumed by both men and women, though medieval ale was much different than our modern machine-produced beverage. Ale was made in small batches with no constant standard of production. Ale in medieval times was cloudy in appearance, often with remnants of the original ingredients contained in the beverage. Small ale was often consumed with peasant meals. It was usually made with malted barley or other grains and combined with herbs for taste. Medieval ale was less bitter and sweeter than modern beer because there were no hops. One would taste hints of herbaceous or spice flavor, with the introduction of ingredients like juniper, sage, and cinnamon by brewers after the Crusades period. With an adult male consuming over 1 gallon per day of ale in 1300s England, it is important to state that the alcoholic content was not at today's higher levels. The small ale they consumed, also known as small beer, usually had an alcohol content of around 1% or less. Ale was a dietary staple in medieval times, with an estimated 80% of caloric intake in medieval England from bread and ale. Ale was also popular due to its perceived nutritional value and to satisfy thirst. Ale was such a part of daily life that peasants were often paid for their labor in part with quantities of ale. Cider was another preferred winter alcoholic drink, with laborers' wages partially paid by cider in certain areas. It is interesting to note that apples in medieval times were smaller in size and less sweet compared to modern varieties. Hot mulled cider or ale would also be consumed in the winter season, with spices like cinnamon or nutmeg added for more flavor. Mead was a medieval drink consumed by all classes in winter, though not as often as ale and cider. Also known as honey wine, it was a honey-based drink usually fermented with wild yeast and mixed with water. Mead could be made with various flavors and alcoholic content. Monasteries, which were involved with substantial beekeeping operations to make candle wax, produced large amounts of honey which they made into mead. Lamb's wool was a winter drink which consisted of hot mead with roasted crab apples added to it. Thank you for supporting us at Medieval to Modern. Be sure to watch our next episode or any other fascinating video or playlist from our Medieval to Modern channel. Also, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, click the notification bell, and share this channel so we can create more exciting content. I wish you good tidings as we remember that sharing knowledge has been a noble deed throughout the ages.